please take a second to subscribe, then like and share afterwards. We can really use your support. Thank you.
In the previous episode, we covered the current pandemic of the SARS coronavirus 2 outbreak and how it was prophetically reflected by a plague in ancient times. We did not tell you what the plague was. You see, the people were told to go inside their homes and stay there because a plague was passing through the land. The command was given to them by their leaders. Those who failed to stay inside of their homes during the appointed time were risking being struck down by the plague. And where did this happen? It happened in ancient Egypt, and the time was called Passover, the original Passover. The instruction to stay inside was made by Moses. None of the Israelites were to go out of their homes until morning. They had to stay inside until the plague had finished passing through the land. It would be the very first national lockdown in world history, and there had never been another like it until now. In the year 2020, for the first time in over 3,000 years, the people of Israel were told to go inside their houses and not come out. As in ancient times, it was a command given to them by their leaders, and as in Egypt, it was because a plague was passing through the land. And it was not only the fact that the ancient elements were again coming together today, it was when they were converging together, meaning it all came together on Passover. It was the spring of 2020. The Israeli Prime Minister issued the order that starting on the eve of Passover at 6 p.m., there would be a total national lockdown. Everyone was to stay inside their houses with their immediate family. The lockdown was to last until 7 a.m. the following day, and no one was to go out of his house until morning. So the people of Israel stayed inside because a plague was passing through the land. On the very night that commemorated the very night that the people of Israel stayed inside their homes, the ancient mystery replayed itself on the very night of its commemoration. But this time, it was happening all around the world. The entire world was brought into the mystery of the Passover. The Judean world, the Christian world, the Muslim world, the communist world, the Hindu world, the secular world, the whole planet. One could even call it the Passover of judgment. But what does it mean? What was the center of Passover? The Lamb, the Passover Lamb. In the first Passover, the people of Israel were told to sacrifice a lamb and mark their doorposts with its blood. When the plague or judgment came upon their house, if that house was marked with the lamb's blood, the plague passed over them and they were saved. The lamb was, in a sense, absorbing the plague, dying in their place, so that those who took refuge in it would be saved from the judgment. It all centered on the Lamb. Now, what does the Bible call Jesus? He's called the Lamb of God. Isaiah prophesied that the Messiah would be led as a lamb to the slaughter. And so John the Baptist heralded him with the words, "Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." Why is he called the Lamb? Because his life would become a sacrifice. It was his life's purpose. And not only did he come as the Lamb, but specifically as the Passover Lamb. What day was it that he gave his life? It was Passover. And the cross, the beams of wood like that of a doorpost or outer frame, marked with the blood of the Lamb, the sign of Passover. In the gospel, the message was clear. The Lamb died in your place and took your judgment so you could be free, so you could be saved. Like what was painted on the doorposts in Egypt, the blood absorbed the judgment in place of those it protected. The Lamb took on the judgment so you could be free, so you could be saved. It is the message of Passover. It is, from beginning to end, a Passover of faith. At present, what we are seeing is a nation, a civilization, and a world culture turning away not only from God, but from the Lamb, from the faith that centers on the Passover Lamb. And now upon that world comes a plague, and the people of that world are told they must stay inside their houses until the plague passes over them. And it all comes upon the world in the season of Passover. So, the world that had turned away from the Lamb of Passover is now drawn back into its mystery, whether the people were aware of it or not. And what does Passover reveal as the only answer? The Lamb. The only answer to the judgment, but not merely the judgment of Egypt, but the judgment that must fall on all sin and evil. The world was being called back. The global epicenter of the plague was New York, and the mystery that grew in New York at Ground Zero, the cedar tree, the so-called Tree of Hope that we spoke about in episode 10, it was struck down on Passover. And in the previous episode, recall the 2 days that the plague reached its peak in 2020, April 9th and 10th? April 9th was Passover. That's right, the first day of Passover. So the peak moment of the plague passing through the land fell on the Hebrew holy day that commemorated the plague passing through the land. And what is New York? It is the center of the Jewish population in America. So on the day when the plague was ravaging New York, the Jewish people were observing Passover, the holy day that commemorates the overcoming of the plague by the blood of the Lamb. And it was just after that day that the plague in New York would begin decreasing, passing over. But that peak took 2 days. Was there anything significant about April 10th? Indeed. April 10th was Good Friday. Good Friday is, in reality, another reckoning of the same day. Passover, the day that commemorates the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross on Passover as the Passover Lamb, that the plague might pass over our lives. It all goes back to Him. Everything that we have witnessed in this series, and everything we are seeing around the world. You see, the entire age is timed to the reckoning of His birth. Every human event, every moment of our lives, even America, it was founded because of Him and dedicated to His purposes. Even the city on the hill, America's founding vision, it wasn't Winthrop who came up with it. It was Jesus. It's the image He gave His disciples as to what they were called to be. As Passover centers on the Lamb, so the world centers on Him. History itself is divided by His life, just as it was in His day. And not only history. In the end, it's not about history or nations. In the end, it's about us. Each and every one of us. The judgment of nations belongs to this world, but this world is only a small part, the smallest part of eternity. Ahead of us lies eternity, an eternity with God or eternity without Him. Remember what the prophet said. It is the necessity of God to bring evil into judgment. The light must overcome the darkness, and the good must bring evil to an end. So every sin must be brought into judgment, and just one evil is enough to separate us from the good, and just one sin is enough to separate us from God infinitely and forever. Eternal judgment. We are all appointed to stand in the light on the day of judgment. One can say, nobody's without sin, so then no one can be saved. And that is the mystery of Passover. The judgment is coming, yes, it's coming to everyone. But for those who take refuge in the Lamb, the judgment passes over them. Everyone who comes to the Lamb is saved. The Lamb being Jesus Christ, who died in our place, who took our judgment so we could be saved. As it is written, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life." No matter how far away you are from God, no matter what you've done, no matter how long you did it for, it really doesn't matter. Like Passover night in Egypt, no matter what they had done, they were protected inside the home as long as they had the blood of the Lamb on their doorposts. And that goes the other way as well. No matter how good you think you are, no matter what you've done, feeding the homeless, volunteering in care centers, donating millions, and no matter how long you did it for, it really doesn't matter. Like Passover night in Egypt, no matter what they had done, they were not protected without the blood of the Lamb. The principle still applies to this day, no matter who you are, what you've done, what religion you affiliate with. Yes, even if you call yourself a Christian or any religion, judgment will find you guilty if you don't have Jesus Christ. But the message of the gospel is telling you that the door is still open. It is open to everyone. The door that bears the markings of the Lamb's blood, now in the form of a cross. Whoever enters through that doorway is saved, and whoever does not is not. The holiness of God is very clear here. His justice is found in the judgment on sin, but his heart is found in the cross, in the Lamb. And that Lamb is the Son of God. God is love, and the greatest expression of love bears pain, bears sorrows, and saves lives. That is the heart of God, and that love is the Lamb. And the good news can be yours right now. God isn't far away, as you may be thinking. In fact, he is right here, waiting for you to take that leap. Receive him. Receive his unlimited love, his unlimited forgiveness, his cleansing, his presence, his resurrection, his power, his spirit, his peace, and his blessings into your heart, and let it touch every part of your life. Then everything becomes new, like being born again. Don't wait. Tomorrow may not come. Eternity is much too long to regret a decision never made. It is time, now, in your quiet place. Get down on your knees. Reach deep into your heart. Pray to Jesus. Admit that you are a sinner. You've sinned against the Almighty in your lifetime. Ask for forgiveness. Offer your life to Him. Pronounce that He lived in this world to be the Passover lamb on Calvary. Pronounce that He died on the cross for us. Then ask Him to come into your life and accept His blood that was shed on the day be marked over the doorposts of your life. Then thank Him for what He did for you. You have just given your life to Him. You are now a new creation. Your past sins will no longer hold you in judgment. They have been washed away. Here on Prophecies Uncovered.